Hey everybody, so a couple of years ago, I walked into a local family-owned business, and I needed to pay a bill, and I expected this bill to be about 20 bucks. And when I get up to the counter, they're like, "Yeah, it's $300." And I'm not sure what happened to me at that moment, but I went postal. You see, I had been under a lot of stress. My wife was sick. We were having issues with the kids. There was just a lot going on. Everything in the house was breaking down all at one time, and we were under some financial strain. And as that guy said $300, I just went off on him. I mean, I was throwing my hands. I was loud. I was totally out of line. And it was in that moment, I'm thinking to myself, as I'm overreacting to this $300 bill, that, you know what, I've got to get some control of my emotions. I need some help. And so ended up leaving there that day, and I'm not sure how this happened. Either those people are really graceful or God did a total memory wipe, but now that family, they are faithful members of our church, and I'm so thankful they either forgot about that episode or they decided to forgive me. But that started a journey for me to learn more about emotional health. And as you probably know, over the past 6 weeks or so at Crossroads Church, we've been looking into God's Word. We've got some other resources as well to try to help us become emotionally healthy people. So today I just wanted to kind of wrap it up. There were a few loose ends. I wanted to give you some real practical ideas about how you can work on your emotional health. So the first one will be found in Psalm 4:4, which says, "Be angry and do not sin." I think you could probably insert any emotion in here. The next part of the verse says, "Meditate within your heart on your bed and be still," and then this word Selah, which means stop and think about that. I cannot stress this enough. Emotional health takes time. Just like physical health takes time. Exercise, going to the gym, preparing healthy meals, etc., etc. Emotional health takes time. We cannot live at 70 miles an hour all day, every day, and expect to have emotional health. We live in a culture where we seem to be addicted to busy, and as long as we're addicted to busy, we're going to continue to be going into the land of crazy. God never intended us for us to live a lazy life, but He also did not intend for us to be super busy. Every one of us needs time each day for our souls, where we slow down, process the events of the day, spend some time with God, spend time with our families. So we need that daily time where we're, as the psalmist said, lay down on your bed, think about the day. What's in your heart? What kind of emotions have you experienced? Talk to the Lord about that. And then we also need a Sabbath day each week, an entire day that we spend in worship, rest, and rejuvenation. God Himself rested on the Sabbath. So we talked about a bunch of different stuff in this series. But one of those things that's really going to help us, a key to emotional health, is taking some time, slowing down, so that we can process our emotions. Another thing that we looked at for 3 weeks in this series are family patterns. We discussed this over and over and over again. We're not destined to repeat unhealthy family patterns, but we are bent to go in that direction. So what we've got to do is recognize them and then be intentional about not repeating them. When you feel a certain way, you got to ask yourself, is this old family or is this new family? Is this Jesus or is this grandpa? Another real practical step is don't stuff your emotions. It's kind of why we called the series Buried Alive, because so many of us do that. We can read the scriptures and we can see many times that Jesus actually took action because He was compelled by emotion. So we can't just deny ours or bury ours. And if you're someone who really hasn't given yourself permission to feel, then guess what? It's time for you to change. Buried emotions never die. They will eventually manifest themselves in an unhealthy way. One person sent me this text message while we were in the midst of this series. And this gentleman said, "You're causing me to reevaluate my emotions. I have always treated them like burying a cat alive. If it keeps climbing out of the hole, you just have to shovel faster." Okay, two things in response to that text. Number one, don't do that to your cat, okay? And number two, this guy is not unlike many of us who just buried our emotions thinking we've dealt with them, but we haven't, and eventually they're going to crawl out of that hole. So we don't want to bury our emotions, but at the same time, we don't want to blindly follow them. Sometimes we're going to be tempted to just respond to things emotionally without taking the time to really process them. I got another message from someone in the church as we were going through this series, and they said, "Hey, I just want to get your opinion on a situation because my first thought was to choke slam this person." Number one, don't do that, okay? Number two, we've probably all been there. Now, I'm very proud of this person who sent this text because she didn't respond in anger, and the next day, the person who had attacked her actually apologized to her, and God was able to bring healing into the relationship. So, the first place we want to go when we're feeling an emotion is go to the Lord. He gave us the emotions. He created us. He's our maker. He understands us better than we do. But after you've done that, if you're still kind of, amped up on your emotions, call a godly, trusted friend. I remember one time someone said something to my wife that really upset me, and I talked to the Lord about it, but I think I was too angry to hear him, or maybe I just didn't want to. And I was going to confront this person, but thankfully first I called a pastor friend of mine. He could probably smell the fumes over the over the phone line, and I expected him to say, "Dave, you're fully justified and feeling the way that you're feeling. You need to call that person up right now. You need to confront them." But as I'm telling him the story, the phone is silent on the other end, and finally he just says, "Now, David, you're overreacting." Well, now I'm mad at him. I wanted him to be as upset as I was, but he's older, a little more wise, got some control of his emotions, and he said, "You know what? You're overreacting. You need to calm down." Did I still need to call the person, talk to them about what they said? Yes, but I needed to wait until I'd learned to process those emotions, and it all turned out okay. Anyway, I hope through this series you've kind of, become aware of maybe some emotions that you hadn't thought about before. I hope we've equipped you with some really practical information that you can put into practice to your life. And if you want to go a little deeper on this, I want to invite you to go over to this website. It's called emotionallyhealthy.org. Emotionallyhealthy.org. Scroll to the bottom of the page, and there's actually an assessment you can take there to kind of assess your emotional health. And listen, regardless of what the outcome of that is, you can always get better, you can add skills, and God can lead you into a place of healing. Thanks so much for being a part of this series we've called Buried Alive.